Hello and welcome. Welcome to Input English. How would you like to level up your English in 2025? Does that sound good? Let's get started. The new year, 2025, is right around the corner. It's a few weeks away. Soon it will be January 1st and we will begin 2025. The question is, what are we going to do with that year? What sort of progress are we going to make on various things in our lives? What are our plans? It sounds like I may be talking about New Year's resolutions. You may be familiar with New Year's resolutions. They date back more than 4,000 years to ancient Babylon, and they have been used and talked about for the centuries since then. Frequently, they had religious underpinnings. In recent years, they have changed into a desire for self-improvement. I look at New Year's resolutions as a quaint tradition, and in the 21st century, New Year's resolutions are mostly talked about in the United States and Western Europe, and much of the world does not embrace the concept. I do not really embrace the concept either, because in my opinion, New Year's resolutions don't work for one simple reason. They don't have any power. They're just a wish. Statistics bear that. Very few people succeed in attaining the goal they set with their resolution. So let's leave this idea of New Year's resolution behind because it really has no power. But you do have the new year coming upon you, and the question is legitimate. What are you going to do with your English during 2025? Because there are great opportunities. Evidence strongly supports the use of comprehensible input if you'd like to raise your level of listening comprehension and your speaking ability. And this channel is devoted to the use of comprehensible input for learning, acquiring English. So what could you do during 2025 that would provide you with a noticeable improvement in your English? What would be necessary? Comprehensible input is a very gradual process, and so small amounts of input are not going to result in changes that you will notice. My experience learning Spanish and the experience of others learning a variety of language suggests that really if you want to notice a big difference in your proficiency with a language, expect to have noticeable changes if you add 300 hours of input. Now that isn't 300, it's roughly 300. If you were to add 200 hours of input, you might indeed notice quite a bit of benefit. But for the purposes of assumptions and recommendations, think in terms of adding 300 hours or more if you'd like to notice a significant difference. That has absolutely been my experience learning Spanish. Every time I add 300 hours to wherever I am, I notice the difference. So 2025 is going to have 365 days. So if you wanted to have 300 hours in 2025, that's about an hour a day. Assuming a high degree of consistency, it's about an hour a day. So rather than just wishing that we would get better in the language, what I'm suggesting is an action plan. And the action plan will be implemented through habits. We've talked about this in other videos, and I've recommended the book Atomic Habits. This has been super useful for me in my language learning journey. So if you'd like to do an hour of input per day consistently, it's time to start forming that habit. I would look at your day schedule. What is your routine throughout your day, and see where you can fit that hour in. There are many places in the day that hour might easily fit. For me, it fits at the time for coffee and breakfast. I get up early. I put my breakfast on, which cooks on the stove for about half an hour. I enjoy a cup of coffee, and so I get about 30 minutes of input while breakfast is cooking, and then the other 30 minutes of input while I'm enjoying that breakfast and my second cup of coffee. I'm an early riser, and it fits in my schedule. For those of us who can use podcasts and audiobooks, that frees up time for commuting, traveling, walking, times that it would be impractical to watch videos. My second hour of input each day was typically during my commute time, about half an hour to work and about half an hour from work. Additional time would accrue if I chose to make a stop, for instance, at a grocery store during that commute process. In the evenings, before dinner and after dinner, there is time available for various activities. And the question is, would this be a good time to put input on your schedule? And when we talk about putting it on your schedule, we're talking about developing a habit of doing it very consistently. You can see from that simple discussion that there are various times during the day for most people that input will fit. The next question for you to answer for yourself is, how much progress do you want to make in 2025? Do you want noticeable benefit? Do you want a more dramatic improvement in your English? Would you like an earth-shattering difference in your skills in English? Because really, you could do 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day. Some people can do 3 hours a day. And this was my approach learning Spanish. Being basically fairly impatient, I wanted to learn quickly. I wanted to enjoy it, but I wanted to put the time in so that the progress was fairly rapid. I found great entertainment value for me to see fairly rapid progress. So I chose 3.5 hours per day, every day. You're in charge of that decision. I don't dictate to you how much input you need. Now, once you've decided on how much input you want per day, then it is time to choose the input you want. Now, I have built this channel to provide those resources. As of this recording, I have more than 160 videos. They average 13 minutes each. About 20 to 25% of them are on the subject of language learning strategies centered on comprehensible input. The remainder of the videos are stories and demonstrations that have a lot of language in them, and you can use that as input. The videos on this channel are best described as intermediate videos, perhaps advanced beginner videos. Some are easier than others. Each video could be considered a treasure hunt because there are expressions and interesting things embedded in each video for your entertainment and for your benefit. These videos contain little or no slang, there's no profanity, and all the expressions that are offered are taught in context. Things that I feel are a little obscure, I will define my terms in the video and explain what the expression means. Not very often, though. There are other resources online, on YouTube, and various websites. There are lots of sources of input. I have videos on how to choose your input. The reason I bring this topic up at this point in this discussion is if you're going to have a habit of having input an hour a day or 2 hours a day during 2025, then ideally you would identify what input you're going to use. If your listening comprehension is high enough and you can use podcasts, then that is an excellent thing to put on this list. Also, audiobooks. Audiobooks require significant listening comprehension, but once you get to the level that you can make use of audiobooks, they are a fabulous resource. We have lots of discussion on this in other videos. My point here is if you're going to make a lot of progress in 2025, have in mind what input you're going to use so that your habit of getting input every day can work. In previous videos, I have mentioned the field of cognitive psychology, which provides us information, scientific information, on how humans learn, forget, and remember things. It's the science of learning, and I will have more on these topics in upcoming videos. As you form your habits during 2025 of, let's say, getting 1 hour of input each day, one of the things you might want to fold into your plans is a strategy on how to use what we've learned from cognitive psychology, specifically spacing and interleaving. The use of spacing in learning can provide tremendous improvement in your long-term learning, your long-term recall of what you have learned. Using resources from this channel, you are in charge of the spacing. So if you watch a video, one of my stories, and then you choose to review it later to maybe understand it at a higher level, don't do that immediately. Space it out and re-watch that video in its entirety a week or two later. That spacing will benefit you with improvement in your learning process. So you are in charge of spacing. And repetition is a big part of learning a language. So if you watch the videos on this channel, I assume you're going to watch them more than once. There's a lot there to absorb, and my advice is to use spacing. Watch a video, and perhaps the next time you watch it, a week or two later. So you're in charge of spacing. Interleaving is the term that means that you study different things, different topics, and that they're all mixed up. We don't want to study language in blocks. We want the language to be a mixture, a stew of various parts of the language. And this is something that has been done for you as I made these videos. Each of these videos has its own subject matter and its own vocabulary. And so by watching various videos on this channel, one after another, you get that interleaving because it's designed into the channel. I've been aware of this concept of interleaving as a benefit to language learning, a benefit to learning in general. And so interleaving is designed into this channel. When you get input from other sources, interleaving will probably be at work there too. Habits and consistency have each been shown to be useful tools to the language learner. Another tool that you can take advantage of is accountability. You can structure this as accountability to yourself or to others, a family member or a friend, for instance. It's not unusual for someone to set a goal, like getting at least 1 hour of input each day, and writing it down. This is my goal. They write it down. And then each day they test themselves against that goal. Did I get my input today? I found this very useful for me. I used this technique. I used accountability to myself. I set my goal, and then toward the end of the day, I would look at how much progress I had made toward my goal, and sometimes I would focus efforts to bring my input up to that daily goal. In previous videos, I have recommended a language learning app called Link. And one of the nice things about Link is they have metrics built into their app. They will tell you how much listening time you accrued. They will keep track of it each day. They will keep track of it cumulatively. They will keep track of how many words you have read. They will keep track of an estimate of how many words you know, how many words you say you know. So Link has some advantages if you feel you need some help with accountability. You might consider using that app. I used it learning Spanish and found it quite useful. So 2025 is right around the corner. This is an excellent time to give some thought to how much progress you want to make in 2025. Give a little thought to your action plan, and then try to figure out when in your day the input will fit. That allows you to start making habits. The next 3 weeks, as we come into the new year, is a great time to start forming your habits that you're going to use during 2025. Studies show that for humans, the formation of a habit frequently takes about a month. So if you start working on consistency and habit formation now, you'll be in very good position to make excellent progress in 2025. That's the end of this episode. I invite comments below, and I hope you join us in future videos. See you soon.